everyone, Cheryl here with Ink Pulp. Well, I'm back to make my 100 subby giveaway prize. Mousey Deb won the giveaway. And just as a reminder, I'll tell you that I had asked everybody to give me 5 items to work with, and that the winner, I would take their list and make something out of their 5 items. So Mousey Deb won, and her 5 items were embossing powder, which I have here. It's a shiny, sparkly blue that I'm going to use with this script stamp. So that'll be the embossing powder. Stencils was another thing she chose, and I just in the mail today got this from Spectrum Art Creations. I had ordered it, and I love it, so I'm going to use that stencil. Acrylic paints. I'm going to use a yellow and a blue acrylic paint. Cardstock. Oh, this is the ink I'm going to use with my stencil. It is an archival ink by Ranger, and it's color hydrangea, so that will be my stencil ink. Cardstock. I've got a couple of pieces of cardstock, and what I'm going to make with this, I'm going to make a journal tag out of the big piece, and then I will make a pocket out of the torn piece for the journal card to go in. And then finally, lace. And I actually have a couple of laces I'm going to use, but I'm going to use one of these yellow flowers. And then I'm also going to use a piece of just plain straight lace, and I'm not seeing it offhand here on my desk, but there it is. I'm going to use a piece of this as well. Now, I will be using a couple of additional things, but that's basically what I'm going to use and how I'm going to use Deb's 5 items. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do, these cardstock, I'm going to be putting paints and things on these, so I do want to put some gesso, probably way too much gesso. But I want to put some gesso on these first so that the paints go down better. Maybe not as much as I thought. So we'll put some gesso down, and then we'll give it a quick dry and finish up with some acrylic paints. Okay. So there we go with that one. And here I thought I had too much. I didn't have enough. So Mousey Deb, thanks for playing. You picked some great items, and it took me a little while to look around at everything I had, and I actually had a different stencil all picked out for this. And then when my order came in today from Maddie at Spectrum Art, I saw that stencil and I said, oh, that's the one I have to use. So I put back the other stencil I had, and we're going to use this one instead. All right, we've got a good thick layer of gesso on there. Let's give it a dry, and then we'll start adding some paint. This sort of reminds me of my mixed media days and playing with the paints and the embossing powders and the gesso. It's kind of exciting, and the stencils. It's a little more mixed media than the typical junk journaling that I've been doing lately. So I've been having a lot of fun with this. And it's so funny when you do things like this that are more mixed media, is that, you work in layers, and at some point it just doesn't look that great. And you keep working it, and you keep working it, and adding layers, and you end up with something actually quite beautiful. So I'm excited to go through that process again. And I did want to tell you guys that I know it took me a little bit to get to this, and the reason for that is that on last Friday, my granddaughter turned 1. And so we celebrated on her birthday, but then this past Saturday, we had a party for her at our house. And so I was very busy getting everything ready for the party, and we had a bunch of people over and celebrated, and oh, it was just delightful. We love that little girl so much. It's our first granddaughter, our only grandchild. And we've been having so much fun with her. So I needed to get that project out of the way before I worked on this. So, all right, let's work with some paint. Now, again, I'm going to tell you one more time. I tell you this in every video. I am a messy crafter. So I like to get in here with my fingers and play. And I do make a mess. So that's just sort of the way I roll. I like to get in and really be a part of the creation process. So we're just going to put down some yellow paint. Got a little bit of a lump there. And we'll put a little bit on the pocket as well. Let's give it a little bit more. Maybe not that much more. All right. So this is pretty, and this is the lemonade color from Folk Art, number 904. I couldn't even tell you if they make this paint. This paint is probably almost 10 years old. Still works just fine, but it is quite old. I've had it for a long time. And then the blue I'm using is Light Periwinkle, number 640, also by Folk Art. We're just going to put some of this, come on, some of this blue on here. And because it's acrylic, they're of course not mixing. They are laying one on top of the other, which is nice. I'm just going to take the lid off of this one because it doesn't seem to want to come out real well. All right, so I'm just laying down some paint, giving the background some color. And like I said, we're going to go through a period of time where it's just not going to look that great. And that's just part of the process. So, but this is the background, so we'll be covering up quite a bit of it. We'll be enhancing it, adding layers. All right, I think that looks good. Now, if I can find them, which I don't have a clue if I can. I was going to see if I could find my wet wipes. Here's one that's a little bit wet still. Kind of wipe off. And I'm going to wipe up this little glob of paint I have up here, because if I don't, I know that I'm going to get into it and I'll have it everywhere. All right, so we have those. Let's go ahead and give that a quick dry. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is add some stamping. Now, this was not part of the 5 items, but I felt like it needed a little bit of texture here in the background. So I've got a great big stamp here, and I don't have a stamp pad and acrylic block big enough for it, so I'm just using the back of a tin. Use what you got, right? And put it right on the corner up here, and then I'm going to open the tin so I can press down in the middle so I don't miss the middle stamping. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing down in the lower right hand corner. Open the tin, press down in the middle, and there we go. So we've got some nice texture there. Let's do one on the, let's do one on the pocket as well. I think we'll run it across this way. And I tend to run my stamps a little bit off the page. I like that look because it gives the idea that there's a continuation of that pattern. All right, whoops, I lost one of the tags out of my little tin here. All right, let's give that a dry. So that was a little extra, Mousey Deb. I hope you don't mind that I added a little to your 5 items, but I just felt like we needed a little bit more pattern, and I'm actually going to do a little bit more stamping before it's all done. But for now, this will do. The next thing I'm going to do is put down some stenciling. And we're going to use this new stencil from Spectrum Art Creations. And if you haven't looked at their store yet, I would highly recommend that you do. Great prices on some great items. And they have every Saturday an online sale, which is where I bought this. And you can, go online and participate in the process. And then when you get a great big package in the mail, it's just so much fun. Now I'm looking for my dauber for this hydrangea, and I don't see it offhand, so let me grab another one. All right, so this is just hydrangea ink, and we're just gonna add a little bit of this on top of the paint. Oh, isn't that pretty? Giving us lots of background texture. There we go. Maybe just a little bit right here. All right, that's enough of that. We don't want to get it too crazy busy. And then I'm going to put, oh, I didn't do the envelope. Let's get the envelope with some of the stenciling. There we go. All right. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do, after I give this another little dry, is I'm going to stamp and add some embossing powder, which was one of Deb's 5 things. So, let's just make sure this is dry. Now, I've added a lot of wet stuff to this piece already. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it's happened to me, and it's so frustrating. You stamp your embossing ink, and you pour your embossing powder over it, and it sticks everywhere because there's still moisture in the piece, and it doesn't give you a nice crisp stamp. So some of you have purchased, you can buy, I think they're called embossing buddies, and it's a powdery, a bag full of a powdery substance that you dab over your card to take up the moisture. Well, rather than buy one, I made my own, and I'll do a 12-minute tip on this. This is just a tea bag, a cloth tea bag that I've had for years, and I just put cornstarch in it. So I'm just gonna dab my piece here, blow off the extra cornstarch, and now I can stamp that without risking ink going everywhere. So let's see what I do with my script stamp. There it is. So we'll put that on a block and ink it up, whoops, ink it up real good. Not wanting to stick to that block. Here's another little tip I have. Oh, I didn't get out any more. 1 second. Pardon my reach. I'm gonna dig in a box over here.
You ought to customize your car insurance at Liberty Mutual.
Okay, so I have a glue stick, and I just put a little bit of glue stick down on my acrylic block and then stick the stamp. And then when I'm all done, I just wash it off. But it helps the stamp to stick. All right, so let's do this all over because I want to put stamping in a couple of different places. So we'll dry it off really good, and we'll put some up here. And of course, this is the clear embossing powder, so you're not really going to see it till I put the powder on. Oops, big old chunk. That's okay. We can pour it back in the bottle. All right. And there you go. Look at how nice and pretty that stamping is. You don't have the big chunks of embossing powder. I've got a little bit extra right over here, so I'm just going to take a tiny little brush and take that off. But other than that, it looks good. That cornstarch is great for drying because, yeah, that's what cornstarch does, is it takes the moisture out of things. So if you want a really inexpensive way to do that, just get yourself one of those little cloth tea bags. I think you can get them, I don't know if you can get them at the dollar store, but they're not very expensive. And let's see here. I was looking for something to put that on, but I'll just hold it up. And then we're going to go ahead and emboss. And that blue embossing powder is a nice sparkly powder. So it's going to give us a little shine where that... And I apologize for the extra noise. That's just part of the process, I guess. That one looks done. And then the focal point is something else that was not really specified by Deb. And so I chose, you'll see here in a minute, I chose a napkin, a piece of a napkin. And it's a bird image that we're going to put right in the middle of this. So let's just make sure this is all melted really good so it doesn't come off. You can see it's still melting in a couple of places. Now, if your card starts curling up like this, you can turn it over on the back and put some heat on it, and that will help flatten it out. Okay. All right, so there's our card so far. I am going to put a little bit more stamping on here. Let's see, what color did I have? I had the frayed burlap. And I'm just going to take some of these little swirls and kind of put them underneath the words a little bit, just in a couple of places. There we go. Just a little bit more texture there. Now, if I put if I put wet medium down on this, it's going to make all of that. I probably should have used a more permanent ink for my stamping as well, because I do need to put some more wet medium down. The stenciling is going to be fine because I used archival ink. But this is distress ink, and it's going to come up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you to talk amongst yourselves for just a minute. I'm going to go get a little bit of fixative spray, and I'm going to spray this, which will cement everything in place and allow me to add more wet media on top without messing up the stamping that's there. So I will be right back. All right, I found it. So there are two kinds of fixatives. We've got a workable fixative and you have a final. This is made by Krylon. This is my favorite workable. It says it protects pencil, pastel, chalk drawings, prevents smudging and wrinkling. It's just a really great product, and it's workable, so you can work over the top of it. Let me shake it up here really quick. And I just realized I haven't been putting everything. I didn't do any embossing on my pocket. We'll get that done. All right. So the workable fixative, and normally you would spray this outside, but I think for as little as I'm doing here, it's not going to hurt. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Woo. Some strong smelling stuff. And I'm just going to give that a quick dry. And that will seal in. I highly recommend the fixative. Now, I know that Ranger has a product. I'm thinking maybe it's a glaze. I can't remember for sure. That kind of does the same thing, but I prefer that fixative, and I use it on a lot of different things. So while that's getting a little bit more of a dry, let's put some embossing on the envelope. And notice that that little stamp is now sticking with that little bit of glue stick. It's sticking just fine. All right. Oh, and I didn't use my... Let's hope this thing... Well, if it does get all over, you'll see an example of that. Yeah. See how smudgy it is, like right in here? And it actually picked up on the swirls from the stamping, because that wasn't completely dry yet. So if that happens, here's how you fix your mistakes. We're just going to wipe it off. Wipe off the embossing ink and the embossing powder. Give it a little bit of a dry, and then I'll go back in with my cornstarch. So I guess that was actually a good mistake to have happen, so you can see when you don't use that cornstarch and you've used any kind of wet products on your page, you are very likely going to still have some moisture in those pages, and it will cause the embossing ink to clump up. It had actually stuck to the little spiral that I stamped on there. So let's try that again. Let's go back. And we'll put that on there. Put it on there. Just a little bit down here. Now, hopefully we won't have that problem. This looks much, much, much better. I do like to give it a tap and get all the extra off, but look at how nice that is now. That's just nice and clear and crisp after using the cornstarch. I got a little cornstarch in with the embossing powder, but I think that's okay because, one, I can shake it to the top, and I'll just take a little spoon and get that out of there. All right. Let's do some melting here of this embossing powder. And then we'll spray this with the fixative. Well, actually, we're not going to put a napkin image on this piece of it, so on the pocket. So I actually don't need to spray it because I'm done. I'm just going to put some lace and maybe a word on the pocket. So we don't really need to do the fixative layer. That's only if you're going to use, like you'll see, I'm going to use some matte medium to glue down my napkin, and that would have interfered with all the stamping. With the Distress ink, it would just wash it away. But I'm not going to do that here, so. All right. So we have that, and then I am going to go in here and add a little bit of this stamp. Not much, just a little bit here and there to give it a little extra scroll. Okay. So we can set this aside to dry because we won't be working with that right away. All right, back to this piece. And again, it's, we're going to put a backing on this, but if you take your heat tool to the back of it, it'll help straighten it out again. So that's pretty much the background. Now we're going to put our image on. Now, if you think that the background is a little bit too busy, you can take some white gesso and just rub some white gesso around. I'm not going to do that just yet. I want to see once we get a little bit farther if I think it's too busy or if it looks okay. So let me find my matte medium here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that down. And get a brush. And you see I'm going over the top of where that stamp is. It's not moving because it's got that fixative on there. So I highly suggest, if you're going to work with wet and dry medium, that you can get it at Michael's, at Home Depot, at Lowe's, any of the big box stores. You can get it just about anywhere. I'll move that guy over just a little bit. All right, and we'll put a little bit on top. But it's great stuff because you can, the other thing you can do, once you have the workable fixative down, if you do something on top of it, like add, maybe some paint or some gelatos, you can take it off again down to where you sprayed the workable fixative. So it helps protect your work from any mistakes that you might make. So I used it a lot in my mixed media days, and now I really only use it if I'm doing wet and dry medium. So there we go. There's our bird. We'll give that a dry. Now, I don't worry too much about getting some wrinkles in there. I know some people don't like them. You can be a lot more precise with this if you want to really get the wrinkles out. But what I do is, once it's dry, I'll go back in and burnish it with my finger And a lot of those wrinkles will work themselves out, but I don't worry about the wrinkles. I think it kind of gives it some character. Just about dry. So you can go in here. I'll use the fingernail side of my finger and just, I suppose you could do this with a bone folder too, but I would worry about tearing it. So I usually just use the back of my fingernail and sort of rub out some of those. And there we go. Now, I want to cut off the edges of my napkin piece. Now, on this one, I do think it's getting a little bit busy, so I'm going to show you another trick. So the bird sort of blends into the background, and we are going to add a lace piece up here, and we're going to add something down here, which will help, but we can take just the tiniest little bit of gesso and just go around the outside of the bird to lighten it up around the edges, and that will help bring out the bird without taking away all of the background. So I'm just taking a very, very little bit of gesso. And you can see already, see the difference here and around here. It's just going to lighten it up enough that the little bird image will stand out. Oops, I got it over the branch. We don't need that. So just follow the outline. Again, an old mixed media trick when you got your background just a little bit too busy, and I may put a little bit more down here just to tone it down a little bit. You can dry brush this as well, but again, I like working with my fingers because I just feel like I have much better control. So there you go. You see that little bird now is standing out. Make sure he's in focus. That little bird is standing out, and everything else is a bit muted in the background. So gesso is your friend if you need to tone things down. And we're able to do this because we put down that matte medium. If I didn't have that matte medium down, I wouldn't be able to do this. It would smear that distress ink. So by putting matte medium down, that really helps us. All right. The next piece is our yellow lace. There it is. So while that's drying just a little bit, I'm going to go over, I've got this beautiful lace piece with all these great flowers on it, and I'm just going to go in here and cut out one of these flowers. And this will serve as a lace embellishment. So Mousey Deb asked me to use lace in my piece, and I absolutely love this. Is the first time I've used this lace. I've been hoarding it. So Deb, you are the honored one to be the first to have something with this lace on it. I absolutely love it, and I will be very, very, very sad when I don't have any more, but I am committed to using up my supplies, and there we go. And then I'm just going to put that up there in the corner. So get some Fabri-Tac. Now I'm not going to worry too much about gluing down this part. I think as long as the body of this lace is glued down well, I don't think that's going to hurt anything. Now I could take some music paper or book paper or, you know, any old thing and put behind that, but I think it's pretty just with that lace. And then the other thing I'm going to do is take a piece of this lace and I'm going to pull out, I've got a folder here with some labels in it. I'm going to find a label that I want to use. I think this one. We're going to put a little label on top of a piece of lace down here at the bottom. Cut that lace. Now for this, I am going to use double-sided tape. I like using double-sided tape on lace because it just goes down so easy. And if you're worried about the tape, this is score tape, so it should be pretty strong. But if you're worried about the tape not sticking, you can put a little glue. Once you peel off the backing, you could then put a little glue over that as well if you wanted to. So I'm just going to stick that down here. And then I am going to use the same thing to stick my numbers down on top of the lace. I think this is a great use for double-sided tape in your journals. Oh, you know, before I put that down, I am going to, that's my purple one. There's the brown one. I'm going to do a little bit of inking just to make it stand out. And because I've been touching the back of that tape a lot now, I didn't stick it right down. I probably will put a little bit of glue on there just to make sure I didn't take away too much of the tack. And I've got a little tiny bit of tape sticking over there, so we'll cut that off. And I'll put a little bit of Fabri-Tac is what I'm using on this. All right. Stick that down there. We're getting there. There's our bird. Now, one of the things that I will probably do is go around and outline this little guy so he stands out even more. But the next thing we have to do is back him and put some paper on the back so it can be used as a journal card for writing. So I've got a piece of my blueberry dyed paper, and it didn't come out real blue, but it does have that sort of purplish sheen to it. So get our glue book here and a glue stick. And put down some glue. Now, it's kind of lumpy on the other side because we've got that lace and some other things. So make sure you get, if you're doing something like this, make sure you get it down. Lots of glue in all the little hills and valleys. Well, come on. All right, there's that. And then we will take a card. And flatten that out. And we'll get back to the pocket in just a minute. I just want to finish up on this card and then we'll make a pocket for it to go in. Cut that off. And me see what I've got here for... Nope, I'm looking for the right pen to use on this so that I can go around it. 03. Let's see if this will work. And I'm just doing some sketchy lines here. I don't want to, put a hard line there for the bird. I don't think that would fit with the overall design. So I'm just putting some sketchy lines in here just to make them stand out a little bit more. I'm not going to do the tree branch, just the bird. Oh, getting quiet, concentrating. This is so much fun. I'm going to have to do a little more mixed media work because I'm really enjoying this. There we go. And I think he now stands out just a little bit more between the gesso in the background and the outline. He stands out a little bit more. So a couple more things I want to do here. One is we want to round the corners. There we go. And then of course we've got to ink up the edges. So I don't know if you guys can see all of my mess in camera, but I'll tell you, I do a project and I end up with everything out on my desk. And then it takes me an hour to put it all away again. I don't know how some of these ladies that I watch in their videos, they talk about doing, multiple videos in a day. I don't know how they do it because it takes me forever just to clean up. Now, because we have that matte medium on there, we can go along and especially with the baby wipe, and you can, smudge a little to make it blend in. And I guess we should ink the back side as well. I've got two more things to do to this, and we will be done with this, and we'll just finish up the pocket. All right, so there's that. Now, I do want to take, it might not be long enough. I do want to take a piece of this lace and put up here as a topper for the journal card. And I'm going to sew around that. So hang tight 1 minute. I'm going to hop over to my sewing machine and sew around this to finish it off. One of these days I'll get my camera positioned where I can actually film sewing, but I can't really move my sewing machine, so for now you guys just get to listen to me sew until I can get my setup arranged differently. But that's okay. Sewing just adds so much to a piece. There we go. So, Deb, I hope you like the card. Let me get it in camera here. I hope you like the card. It's got all of the elements that you asked for. And yes, I am going to get back to the pocket and finish that up as well. But let me get out my list here, make sure I got everything. We've got the embossing powder with the little scripty areas. We've got the stencil in the background here. We've got the acrylic paints, which was the blue and the yellow. We've got the cardstock, which is the base for this piece. And then we've got the yellow lace, we've got this lace, and I forgot to sew on the tab. I'll do that. Well, hang on, let me do that really quick. I forgot to put that on as I was going around. All right, now it's on. All right, and so we've got 3 pieces of lace on here, and including a little tab, minus all the strings. Some people like to leave the strings. I don't know, I cut them off. But so there you go. There's the card, the journal card. Now, this isn't going to take us very long at all. We're just going to add a lace flower, another one of those yellow flowers here. So let me quickly cut one out. And some of the other lace, I think I'll maybe run along the bottom or something. I tore it along the edge to give it a rough edge, so I probably don't want to put lace around that torn edge. I want to ink that edge, but we can probably find somewhere else to put some more lace and finish this up so that it matches the card. I'm so excited to get this done. I don't have a lot of videos on my channel yet of me actually crafting, and I want to do more of those. I've been doing a lot of the 12-minute tips and a couple of tutorials, but not really just crafting. Okay, so I'm going to put that. Now, I did not on this one cut out the little bottom pieces that go with it. Not quite sure why, but I didn't. But I do have, I guess there wasn't any on that piece. I do have a stem of leaves, and I think I'll cut that out and put that on here as well. I'll just cut off all the extra little threads and add that to the pocket. Something a little bit different, but it certainly goes along with the card and the rest of the pocket design. All right, so this is the fun part of working with lace, right? Cutting off all the little bits that held it all together. And then getting it glued down before it all falls apart, because you don't have little bits all holding it together anymore. I've worked with some very, very delicate laces that, boy, as soon as you start cutting it, it starts raveling, and you've got to get it down pretty quick to not lose the whole thing. Oh, that's pretty. So just a little bit more here. And then I think we'll just ink up. So, Deb, I hope that this is to your liking. I hope that it's in your style. It's certainly my style. So I hope that you enjoy it. And I will sign the back of it, as I've been seeing from other online crafter videos. They say you should always sign your work. So I will sign the back of this journal card. And then I will get it in the mail to you tomorrow. Okay. Get rid of all those little extra pieces. So there we go. So we'll just do that. Put that on there, and then we'll fit in like this. So let's ink it up real quick. Accentuate that torn edge. I hope this fits the size journal that you make, Deb. If not, maybe you'll need to make one a little bit bigger. All right. You know, the blessing for this Fabri-Tac glue is also the curse. It's sticky, so it really sticks well for your fabric, but it also sticks everything in the world to your fingers. And it leaves strings like crazy. So we'll just put that, and I think I'm completely off camera. We'll put that down there. And then I'll just add some glue here and there to the... I had my Fabri-Tac in one of those sugar bottles, and it split. And so I'm now back to using it out of the Fabri-Tac bottle, and I need to get another one of those Sugar Bell bottles because this is really difficult to use. I'm gonna go that way. I might want it to go this way. There. So now you've got a pocket, and you've got a card, a journal card to go in the pocket. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope, Deb, that you enjoy the pocket. You know, if you want to embellish it a little bit more, or the pocket and the card, if you want to embellish a little more, you can. I am going to run the sewing machine around two sides, but I won't do that on camera while you guys wait for me. But I am going to sew on two sides of this. So that's it. Thank you again for being subscribers. Thank you for getting me to 100. I am so appreciative, and I can't wait to do the next drawing for the next major milestone. So here's a little bit of a close-up and the pocket. And those two go like that. See if I can get them all in camera. So that's it. Thank you, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.